Hi everyone, I'm Amit Jain, the founder of Men2Mind. Today I am joined by Lemi-Ola, the founder of the Critical Thinking Child, an education company working directly with the families and school districts across multiple states. Thank you for joining me, Lemi. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fabulous. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah, absolutely. To start with, can you tell me a little bit about the Critical Thinking Child and the students you serve?
Yes. First, I think I'll start out as to how the critical thinking child got started.
Yeah.
I was in corporate America and working very heavily, but when I had my child and we were getting ready for kindergarten, I didn't realize that the process for education had changed in the district we lived in. So they have something that's called test-in process to get into the selective enrollment schools. And many of you may be familiar with selective enrollment schools. They are like high performing schools. They have accelerated program, but here in Chicago, you have to test in for those programs. So I wasn't really familiar with the process and I was doing a lot at home. But when my son actually took the test and my daughter too, they didn't get in initially. So that kind of broke my heart as a mom.
Yeah.
Sort of like I've been doing all these things at home, reading every day, we're counting steps up the stairs to do math, making cupcakes, all the things that we're told to do. And so with the rejection, it hit hard. And that put me on the journey. I didn't start off as an educator. I became
Yeah.
an educator because there was a problem that I needed to get solved, and I couldn't find anyone who had the solution. So through that, I started doing research. I have a wonderful research background from Rush University here in Chicago. So I use those skills to talk to experts in the field to figure out what is important in a child's brain development. How much should they be learning and how should they be learning at each particular milestone? For this is 2026, but you think 10 years ago, that wasn't really laid out for parents. And even today, parents are still hunting and fishing and Googling and trying to figure out what they need to do, when, and how. So, out of that frustration is where I went to the experts in the field, the researchers, and just pretty much learned from them. And then from there, moved on to creating my own style and curriculum here in the Chicago based community. And so, it's through that I discovered that the missing link was the critical thinking child. It was critical thinking. We had the math
Right.
curriculum, the curriculum, and it came to me like, okay, this is the part that is missing. How can we assess a child's critical thinking ability? And how do we know when they're thinking, when they need help, or when they're doing good thinking, right? And we want to encourage
Yeah.
more of that good thinking. So it came out from the problem that I had, but through the research, I noticed and realized that I wasn't the only mom with that problem. There were
Yeah.
thousands and tens of thousands of families having the same problem. And
Yeah.
so that's when I said, I'm going to do something about it and I'm going to share it with as many families as I can. That's over nearly 15 years ago, and we have helped over 30,000 families and growing.
That's wonderful. Like a deeply personal story, right? Started with your own child and then now it's impacting so many other families. So that's amazing. So I know a good percentage of your students prep independently. For example, either it's for the SATs or ACTs or any other thing. And I think your philosophy is like, how can you make them more empowered? Let them do things and step in when there is a need. Can you talk about like how does that work in practice?
Yeah, in practice. So test prep is very important to what we do because testing is a measure of progress, right? If we can
Yeah.
tutor a child all day long, but if we don't have some measurement stick to identify how they're improving and being able to track that data, we are really at a loss and we're guessing. Standardized test is very important and it's used in different ways. It's not only in the classroom for teachers to identify where they need to help, but then also getting into good schools and colleges and so forth. So the way our approach has been, because a lot of families tell us that the students have test anxiety, which means
Right.
that they don't have that confidence that they need or belief in themselves that they can be a good test taker. So they may have all the skills and get the grades, doing very well in the classroom, but when it comes time to take a test, that is where they go weak. And so we've worked with a number of students to identify ways to build up their confidence and make them more comfortable in terms of taking tests. And in the past, we would do that sort of in person, one on one. it would be very labor intensive with a high cost. And even during the pandemic, when we switched over to virtual, it still was very labor intensive because you got a lot of kids that were at different levels. And we were trying to figure out how we can best maximize our tutors' time for the greatest
Yeah.
impact. And so when we now today with your program, with Mental Mind, the platform, it has been a game changer for us because now we can take all of the research that we've learned over the past 15 years on how to implement high impact tutoring to get the greatest results, how to work with students on a one-on-one level or on a group level and still provide a personalized targeted experience where every student comes into the session learning something new and they walk away understanding what they just learned and ready for the next. That was very difficult until we partnered with you. And through that platform, and I love talking about the way it works today because through that platform, now students walk in virtually mainly, and they meet with a coach. And through the data that is provided through the initial diagnostic that they take,
Yeah.
the coaches now can pinpoint exactly what skills each and every student is lacking or where they're weak. So if you take a class of maybe 8 to 10 in a group, or it could be smaller, they each take their diagnostic and they can see where they're at in math and reading, science, and even English. But let's say one student is higher than the other. We wouldn't want student A waiting for student B to catch up. And student B doesn't want to feel like they're afraid to ask questions because they really don't understand. That's the typical way the experience is with student teaching and student learning. You have students that are too afraid to ask questions because they don't want to feel dumb or ashamed, but they know they want more. Now, today with this platform, we're able to identify upfront exactly what the student needs and empower them with the tool where they can instantly get unstuck. So if a question comes up, they can see that they actually missed that question. They can go inside and look at the different solutions and the rationale as to why that was the right answer. So if they get the answer right, they get reassurance and confidence that they're thinking right. If they get the answer wrong, they have the immediate real-time opportunity to look at the different rationale as to why the answer they selected was wrong, but then also why the other answer is correct. Students don't really get that real time, and it's very difficult for a single teacher to deliver that to every single student simultaneously. Very difficult. But with the technology and the platform that we have through your partnership, we're able to simulate that experience and provide each and every student that empowerment, as I call it, where they can take charge and really become more invested in their education.
Absolutely. I think we all know that one-to-one tutoring, one-to-one instruction is the best way to bring that outcome. But how do we do it at scale? How do we really use technology to scale it and still preserve that human interaction? I think that's what you have done using the program. So that's wonderful. Now, maintaining instruction quality, right? So even if the students are independently doing, they are empowered. How important it is for the students to receive those explanations, those practice questions that follow the same curriculum or the style that you teaching, not some generic AI like nowadays the students just go to chat GPT and others and then quickly get the answers and explanations. I think it's critical to have those resources which are very aligned to your curriculum.
Yeah, that's a good point because, you know, it takes, I would say, to be an expert in this field, it's going to take some time. Right? You can't expect a teacher who's been teaching for 1 year to be able to have a level of experience for a teacher or a tutor who's been doing it for 15 years. I think where we're really seeing the value and others can piggyback off of it is that we've been in the game for over 15 years. We haven't left the classroom. Not only do we have our own private clients, but we've partnered with a number of schools and districts where we are in the classroom during the school day, after school, and even some weekends. So that gives us a very front row seat into how students learn and think, as well as the challenges that are happening in the classroom. So we're a very unique organization. I'm sure there's others, but this is a very unique experience. And we've been having this consistently for over a decade and a half. And so we've seen the changes across student thinking and learning in terms of their attention span, in terms of the vocabulary they use, in terms of how they like to learn. So we're seeing shorter attention spans. We're seeing that the vocabulary is different. If you were to say 6, 7, you know what's coming next.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to teach you that. You just have to know what's going on with that student and that classroom. And then also the technology. The students have embraced technology, right? So even before they come into the classroom, they're using technology at home. So it's different than when it was a decade ago, or even 5 or 7 years ago. So we have to adapt to the students' need, but at the same time, we are challenged with you have to teach the curriculum, you have the Common Core standards or whatever your state standards are, because what we do as an education company, we work alongside the districts, we work alongside the teachers. So we don't substitute them, we supplement. So that's
Yeah,
different.
absolutely.
And so, with that being said, we find that we have a really nice balance with our technology and our platform now, where we can still add the human hands on component and the teaching that we know works so well. But the real value comes when they leave the sessions. The students are and students and parents want to know, how do I continue my learning? How do I do my homework when I don't have help? These are the
Right.
struggles that hold students back. They learn a lot in the classroom, and then they step away from the classroom and they either forget it because they're distracted, or they're just don't have the attention span to retain it unless they get enough repetition. So for
Absolutely.
this platform, repetition is key, right? So the more you practice it, then it just becomes second nature. So 2 plus 2, you don't have to think about it. You know what the answer is. So when we talk about higher level learning, we want that to be fluid, and that requires additional practice. So through this platform, students are able to get unlimited practice, and they don't have to have the coach in front of them. They can use the AI tool, which we call Ask Miss Lemmy, and they can ask questions. They can have the tool generate additional practice questions for them, and which is very important because I think in part of learning, the journey is about asking questions and having students feel very safe and comfortable to be able to ask questions without feeling ashamed or feeling embarrassed in any way. I think this provides a safe platform so that they can continue the learning outside of their sessions. And then on top of that, parents can now see how the students are learning and be involved in that equation as well.
Yeah, I think that's very important, especially like after sessions, right? Students at home, they have the homework, they are stuck, and they have the technology at the platform that can help them at least get unstuck during that time. And maybe the next time they meet the teacher, they get more details and more clarifications. Speaking of technology, how could personalized step-by-step video solutions and explanations change the experience of for students when they're working independently at home? What do you
Oh,
think about?
that's a good question. That is a good question because videos are so powerful, right? Videos are ruling the world now because students are learning so much through videos and they're attracted to it. And the visual can really be impressionable in a good way. So it helps them with the retention and the learning. Because remember, I talked about the short attention span. But we have seen that if we supplement our curriculum and our lessons with a video, we find that the students retain it longer, they're more engaged, they're having more fun with it. And so for us, video is a big component in our curriculum. And we're going off of the feedback that we get from students that are in elementary school as well as in high school. And they're even making their own videos. And students are taking their academic lessons and actually saying, can I make my video? So within our platform, through your partnership, we have the ability to take our customized curriculum, and for each lesson, we can, for example, in math, we can generate a complementary video that is short, easy for them to understand. And what it does is it just reinforces what they've already learned. And sometimes students, they like that variety because they have different learning styles, right? So
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, the four different learning styles. And so this platform allows us to cater to those students who prefer a certain learning style. And then you also have students, let us not forget about students who are diverse learners, right? Students in special education. So this platform is for every student, right? So we have some students that need extended time when they're taking their test. This platform has the capability for that. We have some students who are what we call literary learners. Those are the students who they love to read. You
Read,
give them a
yes.
book, they're going to read it. So if they're doing the English part of the test, they want to read the text. They enjoy that, right? And then you have those who are more like more creative and they want the video, right? So those creative learners, they want the video. We have the different learning styles, and then this platform allows us to cater to those learning styles for the students. And that's what makes it really fun when they see the variety of options that they have.
Yeah, they have the choice now to learn and understand the way they are most comfortable with. So that's wonderful. Now, let me one thing which you also have done is you're putting your curriculum in Man to Mind. And can you tell us a little bit about the new curriculum that you're adding, which is called Pre-ACT 9 Secure? I know that there is a lot of excitement around that. Can you talk about that and see how it's going to serve the students?
Yes. So the pre-ACT 9 Secure, we're in the city of Chicago. So they announced that they're changing the test this upcoming school year from a previous test to the pre-ACT 9 Secure. And so, again, this is a test that students would take, rising eighth graders, so that they can get an option to apply for selective enrollment high school. But not only that, the whole state of Illinois has leaned towards the ACT style of testing. So the excitement is now students will be able to take a test that includes four subjects, which is the reading, the math, the science, and the English. And I think that's making the picture of the students' performance more complete. Before we had some tests that only did one or two subjects. Now they're getting the full subject there. And parents want to make sure that their students are ready. And as an organization, we're excited about it because this has given us an opportunity to step in like a state of emergency, right? It's a test, and parents are worried about it. The teachers are concerned about it because they have very bright students that will be taking this test in October, and they want to make sure that they know what to do when school starts. So everyone's trying to figure out what they need to do and how they need to prepare and so forth. So we have taken that opportunity to showcase this new platform. It couldn't have come at a better time. It's like the perfect storm. So we've got a new test, the pre-ACT 9 Secure, and we've got a new platform that's going to be student facing, parent facing, teacher facing, which means that it's going to be totally transparent in terms of how the student is performing. When they take that initial diagnostic, they'll be able to see and gauge how many questions they got correct, how many questions they missed, what skill level that question was in, and be able to get assignments on additional questions to help close that gap. We never had a platform like that before that actually started at that diagnostic and then pushed out the reports at that level to the student, to the teacher, and to the parent. And then not only that, be able to allow 24-hour access to learning. Usually, even our best students that score very high, they would have to wait until their next session and get with their coach. And our coaches are certified, right? We do a very good job with our recruitment and our training. We've been awarded the Stanford badge from the NSSA on high impact tutoring. But still, there's limitations in terms of the traditional way in which we were doing it. Now, with the platform, our students are empowered. They can work outside of the classroom. And these students, some of them, they have sports and they play football, track, music, you name it. They are very busy. So it's kind of hard to find a consistent time even with private tutoring, you may have students that have to reschedule, do makeup. All of us know that's an additional cost, right? So this platform solves that. Because if you do have a student that has to make up or change their date, or maybe their team is doing well and they made it to the finals and they can't make their session, you want them to continue learning on their time. And the fact that they have access to this portal 24/7, that's going to be adaptive to how they learn and take them all the way from beginner to intermediate to mastery, and identify any weaknesses and then give them the tools to close those weaknesses. The sky's the limit in terms of how they can accelerate their learning and empower themselves. So we're super excited that this test has come. We've written close to 1,500 questions, research-based. We all know that there's no official practice questions out there because it's a new test and it is secure. But we took the value of 15 years of teaching ACT, SAT, and other high-stake tests, as well as our experience inside of the classroom, as well as our experience working directly with students and understanding how they think and how they learn and how they can do it better, and aligning these questions to the college and career readiness skills. We've been able to develop these questions that will be of high quality and give students a very comfortable level in terms of where they're at so that they can be prepared for this test. And as a matter of fact, we are offering students to take the free diagnostic. We're not charging for it. We want them on the platform. We want them to be engaged. We want them to check it out for themselves, hands-on, have the parents sign them up and let them take the diagnostic, sit with your child parents and look through the reports, see where they are answering the easy, medium, and hard questions. And you'll be quite impressed with the level of detail that this portal is providing. But not only that, you'll be impressed with all the other features that we're now able to provide.
I think one of the things which excites me when we talk about the new era educator, right? You and your team, you're not waiting for somebody to build it for you, right? The experience is the new program that you have just created. You have the tools and you are now able to do it yourself, developing new content, new curriculum, new questions and explanations and assessments, all that. So I'm just thinking this is an evolution where the latest and greatest technology that you can use to build those things that you were not able to do before, and now you're able to still deliver that personalized assessment and personalized learning to students.
Yeah, that is a very good point because in the past, to be able to build a full test prep curriculum, honestly speaking, took years. We would start off, let's say, and we would develop the questions and then we would test them, classroom test them with students in our summer camp, and then we would release them in the fall, and then we would tweak them, and then we'd run the cycle again until we kind of fine tune the questions.
Yeah,
And that would literally take a lot of manual effort, not only to develop the questions to make them original and make sure that it was unbiased and make sure that it followed the standards, and even making sure if it's multiple choice that you didn't have too many patterns. A, B, we still struggle
yeah,
with that a little bit. So the manual challenge, and then you would have to sacrifice that time, right? Because you have to step back and you have to develop. So then it becomes a trade-off in terms of, from a business standpoint, getting revenue and selling, right? So
yeah,
if you want a high quality product to sell. So with this platform, it's been amazing because what normally have taken us like a year and a half has taken us 6 weeks, really. 6 weeks to develop, do the research, put our algorithm together, our outline and our taxonomy, to upload questions and then to field test them. They announced the pre-ACT would be the new test on June 4th. And by June 15th, we had students already testing our sample questions inside of the portal. That is unheard of. And it just speaks to the power of being able to use technology and AI for good. There is so much opportunity, especially for those that have a lot of creative content and they don't know or couldn't afford, if you will, a way to really push it out quickly. And so I know
yeah.
there's some brilliant tutors and educators and teachers that they have a lot of stuff on the shelf because they've spent a lot of time in the classroom. and they know how to do it well, but they can't package it up and get it out efficiently. It's a struggle and it's very
Yeah.
difficult. And so we are very grateful because this has been, I have to tell you, the easiest process. And we would know because in our journey, when we were looking for our AI solution, as we call it, we went through 40 companies that we researched, and then we narrowed it down to 20 that we actually did an interview with, like a short demo. And then we made a short list of about 10 where we had a second look. And then we finally narrowed that 10 down to 5 that was within our budget. And then we chose 3 of them that we would just pilot test. And that was back in 2024. And I
Yeah.
have to tell you, all 3 that we tried honestly failed us. Partly because one, we know AI was young at the time, but it wasn't so much that AI wasn't ready. AI 24, we know what that looked like. It was the vision that was lacking. We had a vision of today of what our platform would look like and our deliverables to our students and teachers and parents. And no one else had that vision except for your company. And we ended up going through a lot of pain, a lot of money to really figure out who's going to help us deliver this. And we were so excited that when we first met with your representative and we had a million questions and you answered every single one, we just couldn't believe it. It was like a dream come true. And but I will say through all of the learning pains of doing it early, starting in 2024, by the time 2026 came around, we knew what to look for. And so I'm encouraged.
Again.
Yeah, we already knew what to look for. So I tell people, you don't have to reinvent the wheel now because critical thinking child, we've already done that. We went through a battery of tests and interviewed a whole bunch of companies, and the flexibility you have. This is just the beginning. You continue to evolve and innovate, and then you listen to your customers. I think that is the best. I would say that is the best feature above all, is to be able to have someone that you can call and say, hey, I have a question, or I think this idea is a good feature to add, that you are actively listening and you turn around results so quickly. And so we love our partnership with you. We've been through, climbed a mountain to get to this day and have a partner like you. And it's been well worth the journey for us. And the students are already seeing phenomenal results. Phenomenal results. Our ACT students that took the ACT this past April, worked on the platform for 4 weeks. That's 4 coaching sessions, each session 2 hours long. They already got their scores back yesterday. And many of the students have jumped 6 points in their English, and that's in 4 weeks. And we're seeing that type of gain that would have taken months that are just happening at a much, much faster time. The students are empowered. They're like, okay, this format really works on the platform. And they know exactly what to do. And they're part of the equation. And it's just a wonderful experience where you get everybody on the same page. You get the parent on the same page, you get the student on the same page, and the tutor, and we're all speaking the same language, and we're all working towards that same goal, which is to improve student outcomes.
That's wonderful, Lemmy. And I would say one of the things which you and your team has done is like really made clear or at least give direction that how to use AI, right? Because if you think about like in policy circles and education leadership and others, people are either in the camp of opposing the AI, right? And there are others who would just say, hey, AI tutors will just replace the real educator, real teacher. So what you have shown is like you can use AI to enhance what you do already, right? You do one-to-one support, one-to-one tutoring and bringing those outcomes, but you can scale using the technology. Now, one thing which I still wanted to check and talk about is like, what do you think what parts of teaching should remain deeply, right? Although the technology is in there and you're using it, what are those things that should be just human, right? What is your opinion there?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. And the part that in my opinion, should remain deeply human. There are several parts. One is the beginning of the student's learning journey. So at the Critical Thinking Child, we start working with students as early as 4 years old, right? Pre-K. And I believe that part, that beginning part, the genesis of learning should remain very human. Lots of hands-on tools, lots of eye contact, human to human eye contact, sensory touching with objects and rotation of objects and using the vocabulary in real time for the student. Those are things that the AI can't replace, right? Putting a pencil in the student's hand or a crayon in their hand and then instructing them to utilize that tool. At least today, that is not being replaced. As the student goes through their educational journey, moving from kindergarten into early elementary, then elementary, I think as they go up the grade levels, we can introduce more of the technology. Right now, for us, where we have piloted this process, we have started with sixth grade to use the AI. And for us, we've put guardrails around it, meaning it's not like you said earlier, it's not like any of the chat box where they can just chat and ask,
Get the answers.
and get the
Yeah.
answers, right?
Yeah,
So it has some guardrails where it's not going to help them too much, but it's not going to let them struggle to frustration either. So it has that great balance inside of there. And I think that being able to use it independently, we're finding right around sixth grade, seventh and eighth grade. And then as they get into high school, they're able to use it more independently and more efficiently. And I think that for the younger grades right now, we haven't introduced that yet because we feel that they need to have some kind of training on just how to use technology effectively. And then also they have to have some training on AI literacy. Because the thing,
absolutely.
yeah, you have to know how to frame questions. And that is the heart of critical thinking, being able to ask questions and think about the answer and ask more questions. If you give them the technology too soon and they rely on the responses from the technology, you've taken away critical thinking for young children.
Absolutely.
So we don't want to take the opportunity we have to teach critical thinking. So once we have a framework on helping students understand how to ask good questions so that they can identify when they are learning versus when they're just getting information to memorize. When we are able to measure that and the student can honestly see that for themselves, then we can introduce the technology that will maintain the level of critical thinking and then help enhance it, and then as well as enhance their learning and academically. So I
Absolutely.
don't know if that answered your question or not,
No,
but
this is, yeah, I
okay.
think this absolutely makes sense, and how, at what point you introduce technology. And I think that has been a conversation. And I think people always think about one solution fits all. But I think what you are doing is really thoughtfully thinking about, how to introduce it, and how to use the scale of, using it so that it ultimately brings the outcome that you're looking for.
And they
Wonderful.
think about it's going to replace the teachers. And no, I think the teachers, we still need teachers in a classroom for sure.
Yeah.
And the technology is just really just going to help the teachers be able to teach more effectively. You have one teacher in a classroom and 30 students, and you're trying to provide personalized, targeted learning for each and every student. And it's chaos in there because you have students who are bored, you have
Yeah.
students who want to learn but can't. You don't know how to ask questions, or if they ask questions and the teacher explains it, they still don't get it. And so, how many times are you going to repeat answering the same question
Same thing. Yeah.
until they get it, and while the other students wait? And so, this type of technology can let a student have it alongside. I am stuck here at this moment. I know she said something about exponents, and this is the direction I'm supposed to take, but I'm lost. Use the technology to get unstuck and have it explain it in a way that you like to learn and your learning style, and then be able to move on and move fast. So, no classroom today is doing that in the absence of technology. That's something where we struggle as humans is we have a good system, we have a great service, but then how do we service everyone real time at the same time? And that is where technology is going to help us solve that problem.
Absolutely. Well, it has been a wonderful conversation. Let me thank you so much. It's great. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.